we're back. This is John.
It's Paul.
And it's Eric.
That is What If Geeks. And we are here to review the first 3 episodes of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Because we're late, as always. So we'll just do 3 episodes. They're kind of quick anyway, so it makes more sense for us to do it this way. We'll do these 3, then next week I guess we'll do the last 3. Isn't that what we're up to now? Episode 5.
Yeah, there's only one more left to come out.
Yeah, so next week we'll do the last 3. All right, so Eric, as always, you want to go through the details?
Sure. So this was originally going to be a feature film, but because Solo, a Star Wars story, didn't do great commercially, they scrapped it, and it got basically reworked as a limited miniseries, which is 6 episodes. So there's 6 episodes running somewhere from about 40 minutes to an hour a piece. So we'll get about 5 hours of total screen time. So basically the longest movie ever. The official synopsis is that this story begins 10 years after the dramatic events of Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, where Kenobi faced his greatest defeat and the downfall, which was the downfall and corruption of his best friend and Jedi apprentice Anakin Skywalker, who turned into evil Sith Lord Darth Vader. This is directed by Deborah Chow. The whole thing, they're not swapping. This one's done differently than the other series we've seen so far. So one director, none of the names you're familiar with as far as producing or anything. It's all. So Deborah Chow directed it. She was a director of episode or chapter 3 and 7 of The Mandalorian, but that's really it. This one has like the world's longest list of producers, 19 fucking producers for this show. But some names I noticed I just thought were interesting. I mean, I think Thomas Hayslip is the main producer who did Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, Terminator Salvation, a couple other things you've probably seen. But then there's like this big ass long list of executive producers, which includes Deborah Chow, who's also the director, Ewan McGregor, Kathleen Kennedy, Michelle Rejwan, who was the producer for Rise of Skywalker and the co-producer for Force Awakens. Joby Harold, who's actually a writer, not even a producer. He's produced, I think, co-produced like one thing. He's normally a writer. So I don't know. He's actually the writer for that new Flash movie that's coming out next year.
If they drop that one, because that guy.
So anyway, I thought it was a little odd, but I mean, I guess it is a bit of a nostalgia here, and it's kind of bringing together old Star Trek. Wow, old Star Wars, old Star Wars, and new Star Wars, right? Because this happens between 1, 2, 3, and well, between 3 and 4. As far as the regular stars, you got Ewan McGregor here as Obi-Wan, of course, reprising his role. Everybody's happy for that, I'm sure. Rupert Friend playing Grand Inquisitor, Sung Kang as 5th brother, Moses Ingram as Reva, who's almost in a way the main antagonist here, rather than Vader or the Inquisitor. And then there's a lot of reprisal roles, like Joel Edgerton is back to be Owen Lars, who was in the prequel series. Bonnie Pease, Jimmy Smits is back as Bail Organa. And then Vivian Lyra Blair is the little girl who plays Leia. The only thing I know that she was in was Bird Box. She played the daughter in that interesting movie. And then you got quite a few, at least in the first 3 episodes, guest appearances, if you will. I mean, they're not really in it, but a little bit, So as Paul already mentioned, Flea is in this. He plays a bounty hunter. That kid. Maybe I don't want to spoil anything. I won't say what he does, but comedian Kumail Nanjiani. He plays like a con artist, fake Jedi guy in this. And then, of course, James Earl Jones and Hayden Christensen are both back to do the Vader together.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, with that, thoughts going into this?
I was looking forward to it. I was excited to see Ewan McGregor come back. When they started talking about Hayden Christensen coming back, I did say for a while when we talked about this that I'd like to see him get a shot at redemption from the hell he took over episode 2 and 3. I said it had to be hard for him to do that role. One, it's an iconic role that he had to perform in, and then two, George Lucas was directing him. So, I mean, it's kind of why half of those performances sucked. But and you do tend to get that within this series. Like you can see much better performance, even though obviously he's Vader. He's not you don't really see him. So, but still, overall, it's a nice little redemption story for him because he's gotten a lot of love lately around the comic conventions. People were kind of like, they realized he wasn't the one to blame, so he's kind of gotten like almost a Brendan Fraser-esque revival renaissance type of thing among the Comic-Con circuits, where they all cheer for him again. So it's nice. So I was looking forward to it. I wanted to see what they were going to do. I was curious to see, how boring this series would be of him just hanging out on Tatooine fighting sand people, and well, it's not that at all. So that's cool. Paul?
Yeah, I was excited for this because it's different than the Book of Boba Fett, where we have to explain how Boba Fett, appears again and all that stuff. We know from where we left off in the prequels to where we end up in the first one, like what happens to Ben Kenobi's life between those times, right? So, there's a decent amount of stuff that we're going to cover. You would hope it's not all right, living in a cave, buying his stuff back from Jawas who steal it. So there's going to be some adventure. So I was looking forward to it. When we heard that Hayden Christensen was going to reprise his role, like cool. But there's no acting that happens in the Vader costume, so I'm still not sure how this is going to go. I think in this we've seen like one glimpse of him do something different that's not a flashback, but he's just standing there. So I don't know how he's going to show up and how Hayden Christensen, the actor, comes through the Vader suit at all. So we'll be interested to see how that works out.
I'm with you, and not to spoil anything, but we really don't get any more than a sort of back to tank view of him at this point, right? At this point along, so not sure either.
Yeah, but I'm here for all of it, and I guess since we haven't talked about any of the stuff yet, I've still got this weird sense from Book of Boba Fett, because some of those episodes were weird, some of them were not good, some of the fight scenes were not good, and then there's two whole episodes, like one entire episode he's not in it, and one where he's barely in it. So thinking, boy, I hope they don't do that this time. Like, there's too many good characters in this. There's Ewan McGregor's back. Like, there's a lot of stuff that we can do here. Please don't do any of that.
Right. Yeah. So, all right. So I guess Eric, do you just want to roll through it real fast? Maybe we can
Yeah, all right. We'll just do we'll do spoiler alerts here. So if we haven't already spoiled things, we're going to. You just want to go through the episodes?
Yeah, let's just kind of
all right. So we'll try to blow through this pretty quick, or at least we can stop where you think we need to stop. So just stop me if you have a comment. So what's that?
No, you're good.
Okay, so part one, and by the way, none of these are titled. It's all just part 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I guess because they're breaking a movie up. I don't know. You'd think they could come up with some name or something. But it does feel a little bit like a continuous story. It's not kind of like an adventure of the week, and it's not a like segmented acts or anything like that. So maybe it just is what it is. So part one, the Grand Inquisitor and the third and the fifth show up on Tatooine. They're trying to hunt down the remnants of the Jedi that are left after Order 66. They're not there for Obi-Wan. They don't know Obi-Wan's there, but they're there for a different Jedi, Nari. And so a little bit of a battle happens. Not a battle really, but ultimately the Inquisitors are trying to catch the Jedi and torture and interrogate them to find out if there's more Jedi, and B, how the hell they got out and who's helping them and that kind of stuff, right? That's the general idea. So Reva, the third sister, is about to kill him, maybe, and the Grand Inquisitor stops her, and the guy gets away. And then he pretty much tells her, you're irresponsible. You're too. I don't remember what the words he used are, but you're too uncontrolled or whatever, which made me laugh, because isn't that exactly what the Inquisitors and the Sith are? Is like totally out of control. You're supposed to be angry, and
But the whole dark side is, right?
yeah, right. But whatever. So and we find out in that scene that she has also got some sort of personal obsession with finding Obi-Wan, who, of course, like I said, she has no idea is actually on this planet. So Obi-Wan is on the planet. He's going under the alias Ben, just like we heard in episode 4, but apparently still using the last name Kenobi, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure who he's hiding from, but he works in some kind of weird ass meat factory. I couldn't even tell at first that was meat. I thought for a minute it was like some kind of salt rock or something, and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, why is it so cubey, and like what the hell is it?
It looked like a fish plant where like this giant thing beached itself. So they just set up like let's just cut it up and can it right here. And he has to take this barge out and back.
Over like days though. It's so weird.
Yeah, they do a montage of like days of him doing this.
It's like day in and day out. He's doing
the way they open this thing up though is kind of important though. They do a quick little opening montage of the prequel trilogy to kind of bring you up to speed on what this is all about, and then they also show a quick flashback to when Order 66 happens and a bunch of the younglings are running, or they're being protected by one Jedi, but she dies, and the kids go, what do we do? And one of the kids is a little bit older, a little girl, says we run, and that's probably going to come into play later on.
Oh yeah, like I've heard that rumor that that child might be Reva.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We don't get that in the first 3 episodes, do we?
No, not in the first 3 episodes. We don't get anything about it except for the fact that when she's going after Kenobi, the other Inquisitors, or the Grand Inquisitor, says, remember, we found you in the gutter. So she was just, living homeless basically when they found her. So, the rumor could be true. So go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. So I think what we get is an idea that Obi-Wan is just doing the same thing day in and day out. He works at the meat factory. He collects a little piece of meat. He goes back to take a look at, Luke every once in a while, check in on him, make sure he's doing okay from a distance. Apparently, he doesn't like actually talk to him or anything. And then that's it. And then the rest of his time he's spending like pretty much tormented by nightmares of his past and having to, he thinks, having killed Anakin and that whole fuck up, and for him that's it. And then we also learn that stealing from some other lore from previous movies and stuff, we learn that Qui-Gon Jinn was the first Jedi to sort of transcend the corporal world and become Force Ghost, right? He learned that ability, and then Yoda taught Obi-Wan how to commune with him. But for some reason, I guess because he's kind of abandoned the Jedi ways and the Force, he can't commune with Qui-Gon, even when he wants to. He doesn't have the ability to do it for some reason.
Yeah.
So you get the impression here that he's really like completely hands off. He wants nothing to do with the Jedi. The Nari guy that escaped at the beginning, he eventually runs into him, and he knows he's a Jedi, and he asks him for help. And Kenobi's like, yeah, no, not doing shit for you, not my world. You want my advice? Go bury your lightsaber in the fucking desert.
Right, yeah. Because at first he absolutely denies who he is, and then he's like, if you want advice, go bury that thing and live out the rest of your days. Yeah.
But
so it just shows you how bad what happened with Anakin broke him completely.
Yeah, I mean, he's basically done, and it's not even just that he doesn't want to be involved. I mean, it seems like he's almost disconnected from the Force at this point. Like he's sort of left it all behind. you know, we see something in these episodes that you'll never see, and he talks trash about elsewhere, which is using blasters.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he doesn't even try to use his lightsaber for a lot of this, even when he has it. So meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, or in the center of the galaxy, I suppose, Leia, who's been adopted by the Organa family, gets kidnapped by Vec Nocru's gang. That's Flea's character. We find out that the gang was hired by Reva, and they know that's Anakin's kid, obviously. This part bugs me a little.
Well, no, they don't know it's Anakin's kid.
They just know
There's some
Kenobi has a
tie
connection
between
to
the
Organa.
Organas and Kenobi.
Right. She knows that he's friendly with Bail Organa from their time with the Senate and the Republic and whatever.
Okay.
So-
That was bothering me a little because I kind of assumed that they knew the connection somehow. And I'm like, that makes no sense because Vader doesn't know by episode 4. This is stupid.
Yeah, no, the connection is between Kenobi and Bail Organa.
Okay, all right. My bad. So anyway, she's trying to do that to draw him out. Again, Kenobi refuses. He's not going to help him, but I don't remember if it happened before or after or what the exact timeline was, but ultimately he saw that Nari, the other Jedi, hung up in the town.
Yep.
He was like hanging from a rafter or whatever. I think that was his point, like, fuck, I have to do something.
Well,
you know, I can't let this little girl die or whatever it's gonna.
And there's a scene where where Reva they're questioning people on Tatooine, and Owen's standing there and Ben's hiding, and she's like, "What's your name?" And he's like, "Owen." He goes, "Everybody, you can save this guy and his family by telling me what I need to know." And she's staring him down pretty hard and threatening the family, and Ben doesn't do a thing. Like, and he manages to get out of it. And Kenobi's like, "Thank you," and he's like, "I didn't do it for you, but stop sending gifts to Luke."
Yeah, because the gift he sends him is funny. Is
Yeah, Easter egg. Yeah.
Well, the little
It's a T6
Starfighter,
Skyhopper. Yeah.
Skyhopper. But in A New Hope, when Luke is kicked back at their farm, he's playing with it.
Yeah.
So eventually he gets back.
It's a cool little Easter egg in there. Yeah. So I think Senator Organa eventually comes to plead with him in person, and he agrees, and that's pretty much the end of part 1. So he's gonna go try to rescue Leia from these kidnappers.
Yep.
So going into part 2, now we change to kind of a lot more of an action story, feel to it. So he tracks the kidnappers to this planet called Dayu. And I was reading about this. So this is a brand new planet in canon. It hasn't existed before. It hasn't existed outside of canon, but they modeled this after Hong Kong. So that's why it's kind of got that weird cyberpunk sort of neon light, strange feeling to it. So interesting idea to model it after a real city like that. But he meets a couple people on the street, which, by the way, another Easter egg cameo here. The bum on the street that asks him for money is Tamura Morrison.
Yeah. He's in the old clone trooper uniform, but he's definitely got a lot of facial hair and everything. And he says, "Can you help an old vet get a meal?" And it's Tamura Morrison.
Yeah, no, he's obviously not any important character. He's just one of the clones, but it's interesting. But it almost seemed like he knew who Obi-Wan was, though. I mean, he never said it out loud, but
yeah, just the look on his face when he sees him. Yeah.
So he eventually ends up getting introduced to Kumail Nanjiani's character, which is Haja, I think was his name, not Haha.
Haja, haha.
Maybe that is Haha. Is it J name? So he gets introduced to this guy. This guy is scamming people, pretending to be a Jedi, but using like magnets and other dumb shit. But he is legitimately helping people. He's just also doing it like I don't know. It's almost like one of those weird pop-up church things, right?
Yeah, or like a bad coyote that he's taking all their money from them and then he's saving them, getting
But
them
for money, like a real Jedi wouldn't ever charge someone.
Yeah,
Right.
I think it's more than that. It's like the act is getting him paid more. I think it's making him like lucrative and
Yeah.
more well known or whatever. So in any case, he meets up with them. He calls his bluff, of course. He ends up getting Leia's location. Obi-Wan ends up getting Leia's location from him. And then he goes to rescue her, but the Grand Inquisitor figures out that that's happening, that there's a disturbance, and he locks the city down. Against his orders, Reva then puts out a bounty on Kenobi. Kenobi and Leia. It's not necessarily a bounty to kill them, but it sure she seems to turn out that way because it's like every bounty hunter in the place is after them now. So Leia realizes that the bounty hunters are all going after him, and she's kind of like, well, you're not gonna fucking save me, fuck that. And she runs away, and she's running across the rooftops or whatever. And the bounty hunters are shooting from across Leia, which, by the way, one of those bounty hunters looked like you in the dinosaur suit.
Yeah, it looks like a T-Rex.
Halloween, yeah.
Like a small T-Rex or a Velociraptor. Yeah.
Like your arms aren't even long enough to hold a gun. Get the fuck out of here. It looks so silly, man. It really did look silly as fuck. But anyway, so at one point she's falling off. She falls off the roof, and Kenobi manages to sort of summon enough of his force connection to stop her from hitting the ground. And at that point, she pretty much regains all her trust and realizes he's a legit Jedi, and he's got some power, and so she's going to stick it out with him. So Haja helps them get away from all the bounty hunters. And by the way, I don't know I already said this, but this whole time Kenobi is fighting with a blaster, which he talks shit about. He says that they're like uncivilized, like in episode 4 or whatever. It's like they're uncivilized. Why would anybody want to use those? And he's just freaking going to town with them here. So Reva follows them though. She meets up with Kenobi and reveals to him that Anakin is actually still alive and he is Vader, which was a shock to Kenobi, right? Maybe in some way a redemption, or maybe in some way it's worse. Like he didn't actually kill him, but now he's a fucking Sith Lord. So how wrong could you get it? So the Grand Inquisitor comes along. He wants to arrest Kenobi personally. Reva ends up stabbing him and allows Kenobi to get away. And we close out in Mustafar seeing Vader in a Bacta tank, or seeing Anakin in a Bacta tank without the suit on. And I think that's the end of that episode, pretty much. So then on to part 3. Reva meets up with Vader. He tells her that if she's able to find Kenobi, that he'll make her the Grand Inquisitor, which is apparently something she really wants. Even though the Asian dude that looks like Raiden, he's the one that's next up, and he really wants the position. But so Kenobi and Leia end up going to another planet, Mapuzo, which is to get to this rendezvous point that Haja gave him, but there's nobody there, and it looks like another desert planet kind of thing. I don't know why they like desert planets so much. It's starting to get out of control though.
Yeah,
it's like every planet is a desert in Star Wars. New planet, 50-50, it's a desert. Yeah.
Could be a nice desert like Hoth, could be a hot desert like Tatooine. But,
yeah. It's gonna be deserted, yeah.
So nobody's there. They end up hitching a ride with a farmer or something on some kind of transport, but they end up getting discovered by the troopers. The driver kind of rats them out, saying like, "Hey, these two are suspicious" or whatever. They're looking like they're in dire straits, but then an Imperial officer, Tala, shows up to help them, and she's apparently some member of an underground network that helps people escape the Empire. So
she was the contact that Haja was sending them to.
Yeah.
The Imperials got there first.
So before they can escape down, what do they call it? The path. They had a name for it, like the Underground Railroad, but it was called something else. I think it was called the path.
The path or the way or something like that.
Yeah. But anyway, so before they can escape, Vader and the Inquisitors show up. They start to just kill innocent people so that they can get Kenobi to come out.
This is where this for me, rivaled the hallway scene in Rogue One. Like Vader walking through that town and just like force yanking people out of their homes and like just manipulating them, knowing what they said earlier. Jedis are just compelled to help. So he knows if he just he's sending two messages. One, you're going to come out and help these people. Two, I'm not the person you remember. And he snaps one dude's neck, or snaps the kid's neck, right? And then the woman next to him, literally, as he's walking down the street, dragging her through the dirt with the force.
Right.
Just dragging her behind him.
It's the first time I've seen force drag as right? Like just dragging you behind the truck.
I didn't know that was a power. I mean, obviously it's got to be, but I didn't know that was a thing you do with it. But he finds very unique ways to use the force to torture these people. So then Kenobi tells Tala, look, take her and go, and I'll create a distraction. And woof, I mean, horror movie coming.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Eric.
So he ends up being confronted by Vader and pretty much wrecks his ass. I mean, burn him up, torture him with pain. Like
he asks Vader, "What are you?" And Vader says, "I am what you made me."
Yeah.
And they fight, but Kenobi's got like almost no fight in him. He's still kind of reeling in shock to see Vader at him, and it's actually Anakin. And Vader's just whooping his ass, like you said. And he decides he's going to do to him what Kenobi did to him. He lights up some fuel on fire on the ground and starts force dragging him again through this fucking fire, burning him.
Yeah, it was pretty jacked up. It definitely seems like this was a more vindictive Vader than you see in episode 4, right? In episode 4, he just wants to kill him. He's gonna chop him down with a saber. This is like, no, fuck that. I'm torturing you. I'm burning your ass up. Like, I need this. I need this to have closure, basically.
I need closure. Yeah. This is the I need closure Vader.
So little Leia ended up sending Tala back at some point in the middle of that. She creates a distraction just long enough to rescue Kenobi. But then in the process, Leia's alone and Reva ends up capturing her. And I think that's the end of part 3. So that's the first half done. Now, beyond the story part of this, there was a lot of cool little references and stuff like they always have. I mean, we talked about some of them already, but there was like a scene in a I think you mentioned the T-16 already. There was a scene in one of the alleyways where there's just like a couple people sitting. It's just like a cheap cut shot, but there's like a model of the Death Star on the ground next to the person. Like they're interesting little thing. The Grand Inquisitor here is not unfamiliar, except he doesn't really look like the one from the cartoons.
Right.
I'm assuming it's supposed to be the same person, but I'm not sure, because the other one was like an alien species with like a long head and shit. I'm not sure about if it's actually supposed to be the exact same thing. I mean, he has the same markings on his forehead and his eyes and stuff, so maybe. Not really sure. There's also because that one city, Dayu, is modeled after Hong Kong, and there's fucking signs everywhere. I was noticing like maybe a couple minutes after they got there that like there was actually Aribesh script like down all the signs, and I was like, oh man, I gotta fucking freeze frame it now and see what the hell all this stuff says, because I was sure I was gonna find like some kind of secret message. I couldn't find shit. Now there's a lot of signs and I didn't have time to go through all of them. I mean, there's one scene where there's like 15 fucking signs like all down the thing. I'm like, I'm not gonna, but the ones I did translate, they don't say shit. I mean, it says like arcade and store and just like random bullshit like that. It doesn't actually say anything. So I don't know if there was anything in there that's hiding. There was one that said Gungan snacks. But that's the only one I remember that was not like just a word like market or bank or whatever. Um, the begging clone trooper we talked about. And then do you remember when Obi-Wan gets approached by this pink-haired drug dealer girl?
Yes,
Part of how he ends up getting to Haja, he just hands him the spice or whatever it is. So not only did that feel like that, a lot like that stupid ass gang from the Boba Fett series, just the look. The person who plays that is Ewan McGregor's actual daughter, Esther Rose McGregor.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Which is pretty cool.
Nice.
What else was there? I think we got to see Assassin Droid. It wasn't the Assassin Droid Forlom or whatever, but it looked like it, you know.
Yeah, it looked just like him. Yeah.
I don't know. There was a handful of other ones. I'm trying to remember now, but there was a lot of little Easter eggs like that thrown in here, which I wasn't sure if they were going to do. I mean, this series does feel different than the other Disney or Lucasfilm, whatever, Star Wars series that they've done. So I wasn't sure, but there's definitely stuff scattered in there. And I didn't have time to go back and watch each episode 2 or 3 times to try to find them all. So maybe I'll get around to that eventually, but
Right.
not now.
Well, I could say, speaking of Easter eggs, that could actually also be a spoiler. So this poster behind me, right? They did like, I think it was right after episode 1 or right before episode 3, one or the other. They dropped a bunch of these character posters on their Twitter page, and it was for all the main characters, right? It was like Obi-Wan, Vader, Haja, right? A bunch of them, right? Reva, the Grand Inquisitor. There's a bunch of them. And now on like Obi-Wan and Haja's picture, if you see, the one side is blurred out by the Twin Sons of Tatooine, and you see Vader's silhouette in there, right? Well, on Vader's and the Grand Inquisitors, you see the same thing, but you see Obi-Wan's silhouette in there. Now, we talked about whether or not Reva might be that youngling from the beginning of the thing. By episode 2, Heather asked me, is that the girl, is she the same girl that said we run? I said, I don't know, maybe, because, they said they found her in the gutter, right? When they dropped these posters, Reva's poster, it doesn't say third sister, it says Reva, right? But then her poster looks like Obi-Wan's, where it's Darth Vader's silhouette in the Tatooine Sons and not Obi-Wan's. So could it be, a twist of, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It might have dropped something in there that they shouldn't have, but we'll find out in episodes 4, 5, and 6, I guess.
You know what? Sorry, I'm going to backtrack just a bit, but I know why Tamara Morrison's clone character knows Obi-Wan, because he was 501st Legion, which he would know Obi-Wan, Ahsoka Tano, and Anakin. He would know them all, assuming he was there around the same time, which was only 10 years ago, so I'm sure he would have been. So he would actually know who he is.
Yeah.
Sorry, that just dawned on me. I forgot he had the 501st Legion marking on his armor.
Right. Yeah. See, look at that. That's nice. I didn't catch that Easter egg, but yeah, that makes sense. I was just going by the fact that he was a clone trooper, but yeah, that would make a lot of sense. So, all right, you guys got anything else on these 3 episodes?
No, I mean, I'm a little. So this is taking place 10 years after Revenge of the Sith, right?
Right. So the kids are 10.
And then that means it's roughly 9 years before A New Hope. It seems like this whole miniseries is going to play out probably in a very short time frame of like less than a year. So I guess I don't want to make this assumption yet, but it seems like they're just doing this little piece, and then we're still going to be left to assume that he did nothing for 10 years. He's going to do nothing for 8 or 9 more.
Well, it's funny because Heather brought up, then Paul, I'll let you go. Sorry. I thought you were going to go with this. Heather brought up in episode 1 or part 1, when he's walking around doing whatever with the meat plant and everything. She goes, okay, this is 10 years after episode 3. I said, yes. She goes, so how old are they when in episode 4 when he gets Luke and they go blow up the Death Star? I'm like, I don't know, 19, maybe 20. She goes, so from this point, maybe at most 10 years, and he ages that much, And I was like, Heather, he's living in a desert. What do you want me to fucking tell you? I don't know. It wears on you.
Not only that, he got his skin all fucking burn up and had to get treatment. So maybe
Yeah.
He starts drinking. He starts drinking, and the
Drinking a lot.
years take a toll.
But I mean, she's not wrong. Like, he ages into Alec Guinness in a matter of like 10 years tops. And Owen and Baru both look much worse for wear later on. So I guess the desert's not a kind place.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Paul. Sorry.
And so I really like that. I don't think there's really no slow parts. Maybe some of the establishing stuff at the very beginning of part one, just to show sort of how boring his life is. But from there to this part in episode 3, like, it gets really good, and it doesn't stop. I think the Ewan McGregor's great. The little girl that plays Lee is great. I like Reva. I think my only issue with Reva is, I think Eric brought it up earlier. Like, she's a villain. She's a Sith. She's a bad guy. She's part of, high ranking in the Empire. Like, she's supposed to be all of those, right? Mm-hmm. Mean and all those things. But she's just flat so far, like, as a character. Like, we don't know anything about her, so we don't know how she got here. We don't know how she was raised. But like, she's battling everybody, right? The Grand Inquisitor, the Fifth Brother, the other one. She's just like this two-dimensional, like, at every turn, like, you don't get me, you don't get me, you don't get me. I don't know. There's not a lot of depth there, but the actress is great. I like where the character's headed, but I'd love to see some backstory, maybe, to figure out, like, why she's like this.
Yeah, I mean, my best guess, if the theory is right, is that, she feels like the Jedi abandoned her or something.
Yeah.
And didn't defend her in the temple. I mean, if that's correct, right? But I can't come up with much else at this point. Like you said, they haven't really put any time into her, other than to make sure that she's doesn't fucking listen to anybody, and she's really aggressive, and she wants to get her way. I mean,
Yep.
I love that Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers is in this, and that at the end of the episode, his credit just says Flea.
Yeah. Flea.
Yep, Flea.
Yeah, because initially I had forgotten he was going to be in this. Then when I saw him, I was like, oh, okay, yeah. But yeah, like you said, I like the little girl playing Leia, which again is one of those things where I normally don't like child actors a lot. But there's been a handful of things recently where you got a good crop of child actors that are coming out, and she's one of the better child actors I've seen in a while, so she's good. You can definitely see her version of the character growing into the headstrong Leia that we know later on.
Oh yeah, I mean, they definitely put a lot of, like, sass and know-it-all kind of into her.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not know-it-all, but, like, I'm right.
That headstrong, yeah. Yeah. All right, sweet. We got anything else? Or we good? I think we're good.
I think we're good. I'm excited to see the rest of it play out, and we're almost there already since we're so late.
Yeah, no kidding. We will be back next week with 4, 5, and 6. So yeah, let us know what you think of the series so far. No spoilers for 4, 5, and 6. Save that for next week. And then hit us up at like and subscribe, ring a bell, and do all that shit. Hit us up at whatifgeeks.com, whatifgeeks@gmail.com, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And we will see you next week when we review the rest of this thing. All right. Good night, Tony.
Good night, Flea.
Good night, Nari, forever. I don't know. None of the people die in this episode. I don't know.